Get ready, don't be shy. MMA chatter in the room. Got plenty to supply. Grab your drink and chair. We're about to dive in deep. Stories, fights we're gonna share. Come on, don't fall asleep. Won't be much longer. MMA all day. We'll get stronger in every single way. Talking fights and glory. Come join the fun tonight. It's an MMA story under the streaming light. Feel the energy rise as we recount the thrills, surprises and the highs. The intense never stills. Won't be much longer. MMA all day, we'll get stronger in every single way. Grab your drink and chair. We're about to dive in deep. Stories, fights we're gonna share. Come on, don't fall asleep. Won't be much longer. MMA all day, we'll get stronger in every single way. Stream is starting soon. Get ready, don't be shy. MMA chatter in the room. Got plenty to supply. Grab your drink and chair. We're about to dive in deep. Stories, fights we're gonna share. Come on, don't fall asleep. Won't be much longer. MMA all day, we'll get stronger in every single way. Talking fights and glory. Come join the fun tonight. It's an MMA story under the streaming light. Feel the energy rise as we recount the thrills, surprises and the highs. The intense never stills. Won't be much longer. MMA all day, we'll get stronger in every single way. Grab your drink and chair. We're about to dive in deep. Stories, fights we're gonna share. Come on, don't fall asleep. Won't be much longer. MMA all day, we'll get stronger in every single way.
Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Face the pain, ripping me into pieces.
Hey, what's up, fight friends? It's the Combat Remix and the John Fetterman of MMA. Why am I the John Fetterman of MMA? Well, this is live. I don't get to script this. I get one take, so I'm going to stumble over words, possibly merge two together, and, well, hopefully that won't happen tonight, but you're probably going to happen. So I wanted a couple of different topics. I wanted to cover a bunch of them, but I'm planning on doing a few other videos. So we're going to stick to this specific topic tonight in this live stream. And funny enough, so Merab Dvalishvili, it turns out he's opening up as an underdog to Nurmagomedov. And why is that a little ironic? People were already criticizing him of ducking Nurmagomedov. He was trying to push to fight for his first title defense, Davidson Figueiredo. I know people were really criticizing him for that. And I'm a Figueiredo fan. I want to see him fight for that title, but he needs one or two more. So it kind of stings a bit when he finds out that he's opening up as an underdog against the guy he was trying to say doesn't deserve the fight to get the title fight in his first title defense. So a little bit interesting. Also, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but there's another reason why we're going to go over this topic, because exactly how many UFC champion underdogs have there been in its entire history? At least ones that we can confirm. Well, this is great because I just so happened to cover this exact topic a couple of years ago. How many? Hell, I don't remember. 2, 3, 4, something like that. So it's a little bit outdated, and this is the perfect time to readdress this because we got a few more. Merab is now officially the last champion underdog. Whether this fight happens or not, it's official. There are betting lines. It's in the history books. So let's go ahead and pull this up. Also, I hope my audio issues are done, a thing of the past, because last night I thought it was fixed. It was absolutely terrible. So I apologize for that. Hit me up in the chat if those are continuing, if the echo comes back, any delays, anything problematic, let me know. I'll try to fix it in live time. There we go. All right, let's get this started from the beginning. And obviously, if we have any updates, we're going to pause and readdress this. And I want your feedback in the comments, guys, because who's to say I got every single one? Might not have.
Hey, what's up, Fight Freaks, and welcome back. I'm the Combat Remix, bringing the MMA fix to diehard fans.
Okay, let's raise that a bit. Let's get that sucker up there.
And not for those who think that a flying triangle is something like this. Yeah, I don't even know what the hell that is. Today we're going over every time a reigning UFC champion was an underdog in a title fight. So let's get to it. Come on, damn it, cue the music. Before we kick off this list, let me be very clear about a few factors. These bouts can include champion versus champion, interim champ versus non-champion. Bouts that were canceled and never took place will be considered. In fact, we don't even need to have a signed contract, because we know damn well that betting odds can be put out long before a fight is ever officially made. It's also important to note that we are not expecting complete unanimous agreement on these betting odds. I'm sure we all remember multiple times where different sportsbook establishments did not agree on who was the favorite and who was the underdog in the same MMA fight. But regardless of the sportsbook establishment, at any time, no matter how brief, there is even one single betting line that has the champion as the underdog, they will be on this list.
Look at all this editing. I'm already blown away about how much harder I worked in my editing process than I do now. Let's continue.
And while I'm only including the ones that I've 100% verified, there are a few I'm still curious about, but unfortunately the public information regarding the betting lines is limited to non-existent.
Okay, hold on. I do want to address that one right there, because one of the reasons I was going to be doing an update for, I guess, number 2, I don't know if I was going to start from the beginning and readdress everything, but that one was an honorable mention, and it was recently, but had to been within the last year or so. Jens Pulver, during an interview, actually said that he didn't give the exact betting odds, but he said it was official. He was a 4-1 underdog as the champion against BJ Penn. So I couldn't find the exact betting odds when I originally made that video. So it's definitely worth mentioning that. I think it's safe to say it came right from the horse's mouth. We don't have the official betting odds, but he said he was a 4-1 underdog, so I'm taking him at his word.
Okay, that's enough explanation. Let's get to that list in chronological order. First bout is our third fight between Vitor Belfort and Randy Couture at UFC 49. And this will certainly make sense to those who remember their previous fight at UFC 46. Only lasted 49 seconds. Vitor landed a glancing blow that unfortunately tore open a huge cut under Randy's eye. He's rendered unable to continue, so technically Vitor becomes the new champion.
Yeah, that cut was terrible. I know some of you guys are a little too young to have seen that one. Might just be history as far as you know it, and some of you are a lot newer fans, so you don't go back all the way to not UFC 149. Some of you don't even go that far, but UFC 49, 46, and 49, where this was their second fight, immediate rematch, one of the first immediate rematches.
They rematch at UFC 49, and Randy just absolutely dominates him. Official betting odds for this fight had Couture anywhere between a minus 165 to a minus 185 favorite, while Belfort was a plus 135 to a plus 160 underdog. Our next title fight brings us to the third fight between then-champion Tim Sylvia and Andrei Arlovski at UFC 61. Just as it seemed that Arlovski was going to get another first-round win over Tim Sylvia caught Arlovski coming into the attack and dropped him. Add in a little bit of ground and pound, and you have a TKO victory for Tim Sylvia. Many people consider this a fluke win for Sylvia, so it was no surprise when Arlovski, being the challenger, came into the rematch at UFC 61 as high as a minus 285 favorite, seeing then-champion Sylvia as a 225 underdog. But to many people's surprise, it was actually Tim Sylvia to win the trilogy bout by unanimous decision. Our next title fight brings us to UFC 74, where we see reigning champion Randy Couture take on Gabriel Gonzaga. Now, although Couture went on to dominate this fight, he even said it himself that because of his age and the size of the heavyweight division, he wouldn't be surprised if he was going to be the underdog the rest of his career. But nonetheless, the official betting odds were minus 135 in favor of Gonzaga, while the reigning champion Couture was about a plus 115. Our next bout brings us to UFC 75, where we see a unification title bout in the UFC light heavyweight division. It was at this time that Zuffa bought out Pride, so now you have the Pride champion Dan Henderson taking on the UFC champion Quentin Rampage Jackson. This bout goes overlooked for numerous reasons. You have the Zuffa Pride deal, it's a unification title bout, and in most cases, Rampage Jackson was actually the favorite. However, several betting lines were in Henderson's favor. The largest margin discrepancy I could verify had Henderson as a minus 120 favorite, while champion Rampage Jackson was a plus 100 underdog. Our next title fight brings us to UFC 83, which sees reigning champion Matt Serra rematch the challenger Georges St-Pierre. This one's pretty straightforward, as a very high majority of people thought Georges St-Pierre was going to win the belt back. In fact, out of all the betting lines on this list, this is the second highest discrepancy, where Georges St-Pierre was a minus 460 favorite, while champion Serra was a plus 400 underdog. Our next bout takes us to UFC 91, where we have Randy Couture still champion, but now he faces Brock Lesnar. Despite being much older and massively undersized, the betting odds were relatively close, considering that the highest betting odds in challenger Lesnar's favor I could find was about a minus 140, while Randy was about a plus 110. And while Randy put up a hell of a fight, he eventually was finished and Lesnar would become the new UFC heavyweight champion. Next title fight on the list brings us to UFC 98, which saw reigning champion Rashad Evans take on Lyoto Machida. Machida was on an absolute tear coming up to this title fight, while many people were very critical of Rashad Evans, saying that he was only undefeated because of many undeserved split decision wins, and perhaps several comeback wins as well, such as in his bouts against Sean Selman, Chuck Liddell, and Forrest Griffin. While the criticisms against Rashad Evans were in many cases undeserved and perhaps even exaggerated, that didn't stop Machida from absolutely dominating this fight. Official betting odds had Machida as high as a minus 220 favorite, while champion Evans was a plus 170 underdog. Next fight on the list brings us to UFC 118 and the immediate rematch between newly crowned champion Frankie Edgar and BJ Penn. After their first fight at UFC 112, many called for an immediate rematch due to a controversial decision. Now, while I don't agree that the decision was controversial, in fact, I thought Frankie Edgar clearly won the fight, I can certainly see why they wanted to do a rematch. In fact, I thought BJ Penn was going to win the rematch, and I couldn't have been more wrong. Just like so many others, I thought this would motivate BJ to do a much better performance. In fact, the betting odds had him as high as a minus 270 favorite, while champion Edgar was a plus 240 underdog. But the betting odds didn't reflect the outcome of this fight whatsoever, as Edgar would dominate Penn for all 5 rounds, taking unanimous decision, thus solidifying his validity as the lightweight champion. Though I may have spoken too soon, because next on our list we have reigning champion Frankie Edgar and his next title defense against challenger Gray Maynard. For me personally, it was a bit odd to see Edgar as the underdog, considering he had 2 consecutive wins over BJ Penn, the fighter who many consider to be the greatest lightweight of all time. But nonetheless, this is one of the most entertaining title bouts that happened up until this.
Like you said, at the time, BJ Penn was considered to be the best UFC lightweight ever. So some of you guys don't even go back as far as, UFC 112, UFC 118. So there's no Conor McGregor, Habib Nurmagomedov. So you're getting a little bit of a history briefing.
Point in time. In fact, the betting odds weren't as bad as you might think, with challenger Gray Edgar, yeah, of course, that's a real person. Challenger Gray Maynard was a minus 150 favorite, while Frankie Edgar was a plus 130 underdog. And as a small side note, you will not see the third fight on this list. I was a bit surprised to see that, but all betting odds had Frankie Edgar as the unanimous favorite going into the third fight. Next title fight on the list, I'm sure, is one everybody saw coming. At UFC 128, it is John Jones challenging champion Mauricio Shogun Rua for the light heavyweight strap. In addition to the betting odds, a vast majority of the live polls they were taking were picking John Jones to beat Shogun, which is exactly what he did in devastating fashion. The official betting odds for this fight were John Jones at a minus 200, where Shogun was a plus 175. After UFC 128, we don't have another entry on this list until UFC 164, which is the rematch of reigning champion Benson Henderson against Anthony Pettis. Everything was pretty much right down the line. The predictions, the betting odds. In fact, the odds were so close that in most cases, both fighters had minus betting odds. But it just so happens that Pettis took a slight majority in the fact that it was something along the lines of a minus 115 favorite, where Benson Henderson would be something along the lines of a minus 105. Now, as razor close as that is, Pettis still put a definitive win on this fight, making him the new UFC lightweight champion. Next fight on our list brings us to UFC 168, where we see the rematch between now champion Chris Weidman and Anderson Silva. Many people thought Chris Weidman's knockout over the Spider was a fluke due to Anderson Silva's, I'll be nice and call it playful nature.
And believe it or not, I was one of them. Yeah, I definitely thought that Anderson Silva was going to win the rematch, and boy, was I wrong. Some of y'all remember that fight.
There was much talk about how Anderson Silva coming into this rematch as the challenger would give him the motivation to show us that old Spider. But unfortunately, the rematch ended in a much more odd fashion than the first. Silva would unfortunately break his leg on a check kick, and he was unable to continue. Official betting odds had Silva as a minus 175 favorite, while champion Chris Weidman was a plus 165 underdog. Our next fight is yet another rematch between reigning champion Robbie Lawler and Rory McDonald. Neither was champion in their first bout, yet it was an extremely close fight that saw Lawler get the split decision nod. Both fighters would go on a tear after that fight, so when they met again in the rematch, it was for championship status. And the two certainly didn't disappoint. In fact, to this day, that fight is considered one of the greatest title fights in UFC history. Toward the end of the fifth round, after a completely bloody battle, Lawler landed some critical blows that visibly hurt McDonald. And unfortunately, he just couldn't take any more, and he weathered under the pressure. Official betting odds saw Robbie Lawler as a plus 145 underdog, while Rory McDonald was a minus 175 favorite. Next title fight brings us to UFC 194, where we see champion Jose Aldo take on challenger Conor McGregor. Now, you may have not been expecting this one because, as far as I can tell, all the betting odds had Jose Aldo as the favorite the night of the fight. However, it was rather public that the betting odds opened with Conor McGregor as a 2-1 favorite. In fact, he was a pretty unanimous favorite all the way up until the day prior to the fight. And in many cases, still a favorite the morning of the fight.
Now keep in mind, this goes from Merab too. Just because he's opening as the underdog doesn't mean he's going to stay that way. We have no idea yet, so just food for thought.
As we were nearing the fight, regardless of who was considered the favorite, the odds were still very close, but the most reliable numbers I have as Conor being the favorite are minus 135 in his favor, while champion Jose Aldo was a plus 105. Next fight brings us to UFC 195, where we see still champion Robbie Lawler take on the challenger Carlos Condit. This fight may take the cake for the closest betting odds across the board, where there was a lot of shifting, but it was going back and forth with both of these fighters in the negative odds. One specific one stands out because it was minus 113 to minus 107, and that particular one would stay stagnant even the night of the fight in Condit's favor, where many of the other odds that originally had Condit as a slight favorite would revert back to the minus 115, minus 105 in favor of Lawler. Regardless of who you think should have won, this was an excellent fight. It was one of the
No. Not regardless who you think won. I was too nice back then. No. Carlos Condit was robbed. Yeah, I'm not over it yet. I'm still salty. Carlos Condit should be In fact, no, wait, I'm not going to go any further because I'm already going to be doing a video on that. UFC Uncrowned Champions, baby. Come on. Let me know if you want to see that one. Even if you don't, I'm still doing it. So here we go.
Best in UFC history. But I will say hashtag robbery. But officially, Lawler...
Okay, maybe I spoke too soon. Okay, I made my thoughts clear. I didn't think I was going to do that. I haven't seen this video in quite some time.
...retains his belt, and you can make an argument that neither one of these fighters were the same after this fight. The next two fights on our list actually come from the same UFC 205 event. First, our co-main event of champion Tyrone Woodley taking on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Then our champion versus champion main event, which has featherweight champion Conor McGregor stepping up in weight, challenging Eddie Alvarez for his lightweight strap. The co-main event bout actually won fight of the night at the event. And while there was some controversy about the decision, it ultimately ended in a draw. Considering the top opponents that Wonderboy was piecing up, including Rory McDonald, it's no surprise that he came into this fight as a minus 185 favorite, while champion Woodley came in as a plus 1.
That meme never gets old. Anytime they reference Tyrone Woodley crying racism, that never gets old for me personally.
60 underdog. As for the main event, remember, this is a lightweight bout, and even though Conor McGregor was the champion at the lighter weight class, he still came into this fight as a minus 160 favorite, while champion Eddie Alvarez came in as a plus 140 underdog. McGregor really shined in his boxing in this fight and put an absolute striking clinic on Eddie Alvarez, and not only did this make him the new lightweight champ, but he became the first fighter to simultaneously hold two belts in two different weight classes. Next we have the most ambiguous and unorthodox spot on this list.
Okay, you're going to have to listen up for this one, because this one, especially for you guys who are just recently getting into MMA, you're going to definitely need to listen to this one, because it's going to get confusing, because you're going to be thinking of UFC 229, I think was the number.
It's Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. And no, I'm not talking about UFC 229, because Khabib was...
Okay, so I guess I was right. My memory didn't fail me.
...both the favorite and the champ in that fight. I'm referring to a very specific point in time where right after Conor McGregor became the lightweight champion, official betting odds did come out for the two fighters considered the most likely to face McGregor in his first title defense. Not surprisingly, those two fighters were Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov. And while the betting lines had champion McGregor as a minus 175 favorite in his bout against Tony Ferguson, he did not have that luxury against Khabib, who was roughly a minus 130 favorite, while champion McGregor was about a plus 120 underdog. Next title fight brings us to UFC 207, where we see new champion Amanda Nunes taking on former champion Ronda Rousey. Now this fight really makes you feel bad for Rousey. Not only did she lose her belt in a pretty demoralizing defeat, go on a long hiatus, but then she had to come back and fight a monster like Amanda Nunes only to get knocked out in 48 seconds. Well, hey, I don't make the betting odds, so it is what it is. Official betting odds had Rousey as a minus 175 favorite, while
some of you are going to laugh at that. That is what it is.
champion Nunes was a plus 150 underdog. Our next title fight takes place at UFC 209, which is a rematch of champion Tyrone Woodley taking on challenger Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Now, if you remember correctly, their first fight at UFC 205 was a draw. But nonetheless, for the second consecutive time, Wonderboy Thompson was still the betting favorite. In fact, the odds in his favor actually increased from the previous.
Okay. It's still funny. It's still funny.
Fight, jumping up from a minus 185 from their first fight up to a minus 240 in the second. However, instead of a plus 160 underdog, Tyrone Woodley would go down to a plus 120. Things to mention about this fight is, one, it wasn't nearly as exciting as their first bout. In fact, it was pretty bad in comparison. And also, I really don't know how Wonderboy wasn't given the decision. It was really bad judging.
Yeah, not only Carlos Condit, but when it comes to uncrowned champs, I cannot believe out of either one of those fights, Stephen Wonderboy didn't get the nod. It just sometimes it works out that way. Uncrowned champ,
in my opinion. Next fight on the list is a rematch between now champion Daniel Cormier and challenger Anthony Rumble Johnson. Couple fun facts surrounding this fight. Cormier was also the underdog in their first title bout. But you won't see that fight on this list because, as many of you may remember, that was for the vacant title, so there was no defending champion. Both of these title bouts were quite similar in the sense that each fight would show early success for Rumble Johnson, but slowly Cormier would take over and end the fight with a rear naked choke. Official betting odds would see Rumble Johnson as a -140 favorite, while champion Daniel Cormier was a +120 underdog. Our next title fight brings us to UFC 214, which is the rematch between Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier. The rematch would see a bit of a change-up as Daniel Cormier was now the light heavyweight champion due to Jon Jones being Jon Jones.
Yeah, this was kind of similar to a whole GSP and Matt Serra, where, circumstances, the person who is the champion is just wasn't really given a shot to win the fight. And I'm a big Daniel Cormier fan, but I picked him to win. For the record, I picked him to win, and I know you all think I'm crazy. I had him up 3 rounds right before he got knocked out in the 3rd round. I had him winning the 3rd, winning the previous 2, or gave him the previous 2, so I kind of wish I got to see that fight, them fight at heavyweight when before DC retired and he was still in his prime.
Considering that Jones never lost his belt in the octagon and was technically the challenger, it makes perfect sense that this fight would be on this list because he was a pretty sizable favorite. In fact, Jones was about a -270 favorite, while champion Cormier was about a +210 underdog. Next fight on this list brings us to UFC 215 and the rematch between champion Amanda Nunes versus Valentina Shevchenko. Finding several betting lines that had Shevchenko as a slight favorite would be completely understandable, but I was completely shocked to find out that Amanda Nunes was the underdog in nearly every betting line I could find.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. I was literally about to pause it and say that, but thank you, former me. It doesn't make any sense. Even in their non-title fight, Shevchenko clearly lost to Nunes. Nunes went on a tear, became champion, knocking out everybody, some of the greatest fighters in female fighting history, and she's the underdog to the lighter weight class, the one who came in already lost and wasn't nearly as impressive. You got me, man.
It's almost as if people forgot that Nunes clearly won their first fight and practically dominated every fight since, including winning the title.
All right, maybe I should just stop interrupting and just let my former self take over because, again, I haven't seen this video in so long. Apparently, I already covered all the thoughts that I'm having in real time.
Though Amanda Nunes would win the rematch and defend her title, official betting odds had Shevchenko as a -145 favorite, while champion Amanda Nunes was anywhere from a -110 to a +125 underdog. Next on our list is a fight that never came into fruition. It's champion Michael Bisping versus Yoel Romero. After defeating Dan Henderson in his first title
I love you, Michael. I love you, Michael.
defense, Michael Bisping was looking at several fighters for his next possible fight. Official betting odds came out for the fighter that seemed the most plausible in Yoel Romero, and the fight seemed practically inevitable considering they recently had some bad blood towards one another. Romero would be a massive -300 favorite, while champion Bisping was a +230 underdog. Not much later, reports had come out that Michael Bisping was negotiating a possible fight with Jacare Souza, and while many have speculated that Souza would also be a sizable favorite over the champ, I was unable to confirm any official betting odds to substantiate that claim.
And I searched for those betting odds, and I couldn't find any official betting odds for that match. And yes, at that time, I'm fairly confident that everybody would have been a favorite over champion Bisping. And Souza, man, if he had just gotten that fight, he could have been champ.
But have no fear, because in our next title fight, we have the winner of the Michael Bisping lottery. At UFC 217, we have Georges St. Pierre returning from a several-year hiatus and moving up in weight to challenge Michael Bisping for his middleweight belt. Come on.
Okay, that's kind of screwed up. I actually made that one myself. I didn't just pull that somewhere off the internet.
That's just f***ed up. When the betting lines first came out, it seemed like it was pretty split down the middle, but more and more were leaning towards GSP until it was pretty much unanimous. GSP was consistently shown as a -120 to a -140 favorite, while champion Bisping was about a +110 underdog. Not only did GSP's victory over Bisping put him on a short list of people who have won championships in 2 different weight classes, but it resurrected conversations of him being possibly the greatest fighter of all time.
And how crazy how we go back and forth on that. He was considered officially the greatest fighter of all time until Jon Jones did the same thing.
Next title fight, we have Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou. This entry didn't surprise anybody. You have a fighter larger than life, shredded to the bone, who's finished all of his victories, most of them by knockout, and a lot of those were very dangerous strikers. So practically no one was shocked when Francis Ngannou came out as a minus 170 favorite over champion Stipe, who was a plus 130 underdog. Next title fight brings us to UFC.
And I'm not going to lie, I did not think that fight was going to go that way. Kudos to Stipe, because he's one of my favorite fighters. And I did not give him that much a chance to win. So you can imagine I was super excited when he actually won that fight. Again, not really sure where we're crossing the line for those of you watching this, when you started watching, if you went back and watched some former fights. So food for thought, a little more history.
223. It's an immediate rematch between newly crowned champion Rose Namajunas and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. In a sense, I find this fight to be a lot like GSP versus Matt Serra. Seeing a heavily favored champion get knocked out in the first round, only to come back in the rematch to be the favorite because so many people thought the first loss was a fluke. Although the fight would go the distance in a bout that was much more closely contested, Namajunas would retain her title in a second consecutive victory over Jędrzejczyk. Official betting odds would see Jędrzejczyk as a minus 120 to a minus 125 favorite, while champion Namajunas was anywhere between a plus 180 to a minus 110 underdog. Next fight brings us to UFC 225, which is the rematch between champion Robert Whittaker and Yoel Romero. This technically wasn't a title bout, although it was scheduled to be, but I'm not going down that rabbit hole, so I'm going to let you guys decide who's to blame for that. This fight was razor close. In fact, many people say it should have been a draw, which I wouldn't have a problem with because the same man would have left with the belt anyway. Considering that Whittaker was the defending champion and already had a win over Romero, it made sense that he was nearly the favorite in every single betting line. However, I was able to find one official betting line that did have Romero as a minus 120 favorite, while champion Whittaker was a minus 110 underdog. Both fighters minus odds. That's incredibly close. The next two entries on our list bring us to UFC 228. First up is the canceled co-main event between champion Nico Montano versus Valentina Shevchenko. This was set to be Montano's first title defense after winning her title in the TUF 26 finale. However, before the official weigh-ins, it was reported that Montano was taken to the hospital due to complications from weight cutting. Official betting odds for this fight had Shevchenko as a minus 600 favorite, while champion Montano was a plus 450, making this the largest gap discrepancy on any betting line on this list. However, our main event at UFC 228 did in fact take place, and that was between champion Tyrone Woodley and challenger Darren Till. Now, Till was a huge up-and-comer, getting a real big push by the UFC, so it was no surprise, at least not to me. Odds were about a minus 120 favorite for Till, while champion Woodley was about a plus 100 underdog.
And yeah, people forget, after he slaughtered Cowboy Cerrone, and this is before Cowboy really started getting washed, it was an annihilation. Yes, no. I anticipated him being the favorite in that fight, and many people actually picked him to win. So, let's not throw shade at Darren Till. It didn't quite work out so well for him.
And we all know that there were some possible weight issues going into this fight for Till, but nonetheless, he got absolutely demolished in that fight by Woodley, making quick work of him, knocking him down, controlling him on the ground, and submitting him. Now, the next fight on our list brings us to UFC 231, and this might be a surprise to most people because we have champion Max Holloway taking on challenger Brian Ortega. Now, while this may be attributed to much of the success Brian Ortega had, even knocking out Frankie Edgar leading up to that fight, but also Max Holloway pulled out of their first scheduled fight, and leading up to that, there were some questions about his health, and it looked like he may have been on the decline, but there were a lot of question marks that Max Holloway had to answer that night. Now, ultimately, we know in hindsight he did and put on a dominant performance, but at least before the fight actually happened, we can see why the betting odds, or at least some of the betting odds, definitely had Max Holloway as an underdog. Now, in the cases where Ortega was considered the favorite, they were still very close odds, where it was a minus 125 in favor of the challenger and a minus 105 for champion Max Holloway. Next fight on our list brings us to UFC Fight Night 143, where we see Henry Cejudo defending his flyweight belt against the then bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw. Now, while this fight is a technicality because both fighters were champions at the time, we are only taking consideration the flyweight belt because that was the only belt on the line for this fight. Now, this fight only lasted 32 seconds, and many people, including myself, think that the fight may have been stopped prematurely. While the official victory...
And I'm not really going to die on that hill. Yeah, I think it could have gone a little bit more, but ultimately, looking back on it, I do think that even if they let it go a little bit longer, was TJ really going to get out of that and start working back, or was Henry just going to land more shots? I think more than likely Cejudo would have retained the belt either way.
Victory for Cejudo skyrocketed his popularity. We should remember that before this fight took place, people were questioning his validity as the flyweight champion. Many prominent voices in MMA were quite outspoken on the fact that they thought Demetrius Johnson should have been awarded the victory over Cejudo. Then you gotta factor in Dillashaw's ability to wrestle, superior striking and footwork, and the fact that he's faced bigger opponents with more knockout power, and it's not really a surprise that he came in as a minus 210 favorite, while champion Cejudo came in as a plus 170 underdog. Next fight on the list.
Yeah, but that weight cut, though, damn. I'm not even going to get into those details because we all know what happened. That fight led to pretty much the demolition of Dillashaw's career.
Brings us to UFC 237, where we see champion Rose Namajunas taking on challenger Jessica Andrade. Namajunas did a really good job utilizing her reach and her jiu-jitsu in attempts to stifle any slam attempts from Andrade. However, unfortunately, she eventually succumbed to one of those powerful slams and was knocked out cold. Prior to this title bout, Andrade demonstrated so much raw power in her previous fights that not too many people were surprised when she came in as a minus 120 favorite over champion Namajunas, who came in as a plus 100 underdog. Next fight.
I actually picked her to beat Namajunas. Looking back on it, I don't know why I was so confident that she was going to win. It was such a close fight, and for all the aforementioned reasons that were just discussed, I just don't know why I was so confident that she was going to win. I don't know, couldn't tell you, but I picked her, and I was pretty damn confident. I mean, thank God I was right. I got the right pick, so.
On the list brings us to UFC 243, where we see champion Robert Whittaker taking on interim champion Israel Adesanya.
And I did not pick this one right, so I know so many people were high on Izzy, and I was just like, no, man, it's Whittaker all the way. And, well, can't pick them all right, I guess.
Shows two excellent strikers, however, one being a little more polished, considering Israel Adesanya, before he even entered MMA, was one of the world's greatest strikers. A few other factors at play were Whittaker's inactivity, while Adesanya was remaining very active, defeating Kelvin Gastelum for the interim belt, a fight that actually Whittaker had to pull out of. And many would speculate, would Robert Whittaker return the same after taking so much damage in his rematch against Yoel Romero? And while Adesanya would ultimately go on to defeat Robert Whittaker by second round knockout, the betting odds were quite close, having Israel Adesanya as a minus 130 favorite, while champion Whittaker was a plus 110 underdog. Next fight on our list is Justin Gaethje versus Conor McGregor. Many of you will remember that when Justin Gaethje defeated Tony Ferguson to capture the lightweight interim belt, travel restrictions and the unfortunate passing of Habib Nurmagomedov's father would put a title unification bout on hold. Shortly after, there was talk of a potential fight between Conor McGregor and Justin Gaethje, and while that fight never took place, several betting lines did come out on that fight. McGregor would come in anywhere between a minus 125 to a minus 140 favorite, while interim champion Gaethje would come in anywhere between a minus 105 to a plus 110 underdog. Next fight on our list brings us to UFC 252, where we see the rubber match between champion Stipe Miocic and challenger Daniel Cormier. Their first fight saw DC defeating Miocic by first round knockout, only to see Miocic regain his title in the rematch by fourth round TKO. In many ways, the third fight wasn't merely for the belt, but for the title of perhaps the greatest heavyweight fighter of all time. Interestingly enough, this was the only fight in the trilogy where the heavyweight champion going into the fight was not considered the majority favorite. Their first fight at UFC 226 saw heavyweight champ Miocic as a unanimous favorite, with the betting odds being anywhere between a minus 160 to a minus 225, while light heavyweight champion Cormier was anywhere between a plus 140 to a plus 175 underdog.
Hey, buddy, down in front!
Going into their rematch at UFC 241, it had newly crowned heavyweight champ Cormier as the unanimous favorite, showing betting odds anywhere between a minus 130 to a minus 160. And Miocic, now coming in as the challenger, would be a plus 105 to a plus 130 underdog. Now, while it's true that their trilogy fights saw the betting odds shifting quite often, and most of the fights were actually dead even odds across the board, the fact is when the
the amount of views I got for this video originally wasn't worth all the editing. I would have not put in as much work in it as I got, because I think I got like 235, something like that. It was some fairly low number. So maybe the reason why my editing and details are not nearly as much as apparently it was in some of these older videos from years past.
Betting odds picked a definitive favorite, it was nearly always in the case of Cormier. And in nearly every case, both fighters had minus betting odds. However, I was only able to verify one official betting odd that had champion Miocic as the favorite, having the champ as a minus 109 favorite, while challenger Cormier was a minus 105 underdog. And while I mentioned earlier that Carlos Condit versus Robbie Lawler perhaps had the closest betting odds on this list, aside from odds being dead even. But not only did this fight have odds that tied it, but it actually surpassed it. One particular betting odd having Cormier as a minus 111 favorite, while champion Miocic was a minus 109 underdog. The next two entries emerged just days after Stipe Miocic defeated Daniel Cormier in their trilogy fight. People are once again touting Stipe Miocic as the greatest heavyweight fighter of all time.
Okay, so listen up. This is actually the other reason that I wanted to bring this up perfectly with the whole Merab being an underdog now, where we got an upcoming fight. So keep that in mind. As of right now, we're doing a full circle.
Which is rather interesting because he's an official underdog in two betting lines with two potential opponents. The first being a rematch with Francis Ngannou, the second being a heavyweight bout with John Jones. While I certainly agree that Francis Ngannou deserves a rematch with the champ, one should take note that as of this time, he's a greater favorite than he was in their original fight, moving from a minus 170 favorite up to a minus 190 favorite, while champion Miocic is going from a plus 130 underdog to a plus 165. And while the current betting lines for a fight with John Jones are closer, John Jones still comes in as a minus 150 favorite, while champion Miocic would be a plus 130 underdog. The last entry I have on this list is another champion vs. champion fight between Israel Adesanya and Jan Blachowicz. Dana White has come out and confirmed that this fight will be happening. And even though both fighters were extremely impressive in their last fight, the betting odds are pretty damn stacked in Adesanya's favor, especially considering he's the fighter that will be moving up in weight. As of this point in time, Israel Adesanya is anywhere between a minus 255 to a minus 278 favorite, while Jan Blachowicz is anywhere between a plus 210 to a plus 215 underdog. That is without a doubt the longest MMA list I have ever done, but I'm sure you fight freaks appreciated the research and at the very least found it mildly entertaining. Let me know your opinions in the comments below. Go ahead and tell me any entries you think I may have overlooked that should have been on this list, but don't forget to give me any MMA top 10 lists you'd like me to do, or any super fight requests. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate my fight freaks. I'm the Combat Remix, bringing you your MMA fix.
All right, I'm going to get some of those other betting odds at a champion underdog list here. I'm going to go ahead and let this play. We're going to watch the credits while I get that. So let's pick up right where we left off.
It's coming up July 14th. Strike Force, only on Showtime.
Strike Force. Got a nice ring to it.
63 for the television!
One gigantic motherfucker. Welcome, punch!
Well, there you have it. All right. I didn't realize which one we kind of left off on here, so give me a sec because I'm still pulling up the whole list. Obviously, we know Merab, but everything between where the video left off up until the most recent one, we definitely have a few, and I certainly don't want to make sure that we lose any, so give me just a sec. Oh, in here, just something to talk over while I grab that. If I can get it up. Seriously? Okay. There we go. I already mentioned this yesterday, but speaking of underdogs, we were talking about John Wick in the UFC. So, not sure if anybody caught last night. Nobody actually commented on whether or not they would like, because I am going to be doing a video featuring John Wick in the UFC. No gear, no fancy suits, no weapons, no guns, no nothing. Just his skills in the UFC, whether he fights at light heavyweight, middleweight, whatever the case may be. Those are the details we're figuring out, and I want your feedback. Could he potentially be, depending on who he fights, would he be a favorite over one of the UFC champions? I'm not sure. We're going to be doing the research on that, and that is a video that is in the works. Who knows when it's coming out, but I think it's relevant because, hey, who's to say as if he wasn't going to be in the UFC middleweight division? Would he, with his amazing skills from anybody who saw the 4 movies, would DDP be an underdog champion? Not saying he would be, but hey, food for thought. And where the heck is my song here? Hold on. I have a song just for stalling when I'm trying to pull up this damn thing. Give me just a sec. All right, brief intermission.
Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Face the pain, ripping me into pieces. Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Step to this. Face the pain, ripping me into pieces. Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Step to this. Face the pain, ripping me into pieces.
Talk awkwardly amongst
A soldier's heart repairs itself so I can slip away. Watch your rise, watch your fall.
And just on a side note, for some of you guys who do not remember Face the Pain, it was the most overplayed and annoying song. Well, I'm not going to lie. I liked it when I was in the gym. I found it to be, but yes, no, it was the song that used to play before it was the opening for all the UFC pay-per-views. And people were saying for so long that why is this 90s song continually playing over and over? We need to retire that song. So if you missed last night's live stream, yeah, we went ahead and I just remade all of these, the same song into several different genres. And this one, I kind of think may be my favorite. So.
Losing control, I'm seeing red. Watch your rise, watch your fall. Now I'm about to break. Watch your rise, watch your fall. Watch you losing control.
ourselves while Remix finds what he's looking for. It's not his fault, he's just not tech savvy, but he also hates dead air. Sure, his channel's kinda mid, but that's probably more than he deserves. In fact, he's kinda lazy. You probably noticed this song doesn't rhyme, starting to run out of time to stall. Has this guy really not found what he needs? If I wasn't an AI voice, I swear I'd quit today. Talk awkwardly amongst yourselves while Remix finds what he's looking for. It's not his fault, he's just not tech savvy, but he also hates dead air. Sure, his channel's kinda mid, but that's probably more than he deserves. In fact, he's kinda lazy. You probably noticed this song doesn't rhyme, starting to run out of time to stall.
Okay, yeah, we get the point. Shut that off. All right, here we go. Let me pull this up here because I got the remainder of the ones that I've taken note down. And I swear I really it's just been, I probably should have watched that whole video. It's nearly a half hour long. I wanted to do a live reaction to it and with you guys who hadn't seen it yet. And it was just really appropriate between everything with the upcoming fight between Jon Jones and Stipe to mention that, because again, when he was the champ, so ironic enough, the betting odds that came up that if he was going to fight Jon Jones, had Stipe as the underdog, and now that roles are reversed and Jon Jones is the UFC heavyweight champ, well, it's pretty much the same thing. So it's not like it reversed to Stipe being the favorite now that he wasn't the champ. And I just really thought that I had the odds, what was it, UFC 220, where Stipe had the rematch with Francis Ngannou when Francis Ngannou became the undisputed heavyweight champ. And I really thought that I had that those betting lines on that video. I didn't realize when it cut off, exactly when it cut off. Speaking of the timelines. Notes, ideas, comedy. Why can I not find? Pretty much has every other note, fact, statistic, betting line, everything, except for the ones I'm looking for. And I'm not going back to the song, so here we go. Come on, let me get those betting lines, find out exactly where we left off. Oh, I think I got it. Nope, bad bonus awards, random. Oh, that's a good video reminder. I took note of every single time somebody has more than one head kick knockout in the UFC. All right. Well, you got a few teasers yesterday, but you're definitely getting some more now. And all this is proving is all the damn notes and statistics and video list that I currently have. There we go. Okay, let's pull this sucker up here. No, I was wrong. UFC 220 was the, maybe that's why I had it in my head, because that was the first time when I interjected in the UFC the first fight between Stipe and Ngannou. So here we go. So I ended it with Stipe DC3, Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje. Okay, so the rematch of Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou. I also mentioned Stipe and Jones, Adesanya and Jan Blachowicz. Okay, here we go. All right, so here's where it picks up off at the end of that video. So since then, so Merab is dead last. Here we go. In chronological order, we have Aljamain Sterling versus Jan. Hold on, I don't see the betting odds. Here we go. Actually, which one was that? Give me just a sec. Here, we're going to pull this up. We're going to pull this up right now. Scott, cue the music. Yeah.
Now I'm about to break. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, ripping me into pieces. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, ripping me into pieces. Watch you rise and watch you fall. Watch you losing control. Watch you rise and watch you fall. Now I'm about to.
All right, looks like UFC 273. Aljamain Sterling defeats Petr Yan. Unanimous decision. I know it was. Wait, this wasn't a split? Hold on. No, it was a split. Okay. I was going to say, because I know there's been several times where I swear there was a split decision and it just wasn't. So, no, that definitely wasn't the times. And I know several other people have gone through, and I'm kind of on the fence where I really thought Jan won that fight. But going back, I think it was pretty much down to the first round. I could see it going either way, so I'm not I'm not going to claim robbery either way. But yes, so why do I only have the betting odds for the... Okay, so obviously the whole quote-unquote rematch where Aljamain Sterling was the champion, well, what were they calling it? Knee gate, where illegal knee, non-illegal knee, whatever the heck you want to call it, because I think it was pretty much proven that it landed and his knee was not on the mat. But nonetheless, Aljamain Sterling was walking in as the current champion and was the underdog. Jan was a minus 270 favorite. Sterling was a plus 230 underdog, which immediately goes into Jan Blachowicz versus Yuri. And Yuri was the favorite to beat Jan Blachowicz. The odds I have here were minus 120, where Blachowicz, the champ, was a plus 100 underdog. Continuing in chronological order, we have, Oliveira really... So we're going back to when Charles Oliveira was the UFC lightweight champ. He was an underdog to Poirier. Specifically, a minus 180 favorite was Poirier to Oliveira, who was a plus 155 underdog. And then also the betting odds for that. Now, all this particular fight never took place, but many people forget he was also... official betting odds did come up if he was going to fight Conor McGregor, because that fight was tossed around a bit. Now, specifically, Conor McGregor was a minus 170 favorite, and Oliveira was a plus 145 underdog, which now goes to, okay, so chronologically, we come to the rematch of Amanda Nunes after she had lost her belt to Juliana Pena. So in the rematch, Pena being the champion, she was here we have Nunes as a minus 140 favorite. I do not have odds for Pena. Hold on. Let me see if we can find them real quick. Back up here. Get rid of Aljo and Jan. Nunes. Rematch of Juliana Pena. No, not the first fight. The rematch. UFC 277. Any minute now. Don't make me play that song. Come on, let's do this. There we go. It's just going to give them to me for the entire card, but no, let's go right to the top. Is this a joke? Come on. Why isn't it pulling up here? All right, here we go. Well, they don't list multiple betting lines, but hold on. 240. Funny, I said minus 240 favorite for Amanda Nunes. I'm not seeing a minus 240 anywhere. I'm seeing minus 245, minus 250, minus 260, minus 286, minus 270, 275, 286 again. Not okay. So these may be the most recent ones. So Juliana Pena as the underdog, champion underdog. I have odds, quite a few odds here. Plus 205 underdog, plus 200, plus 210, plus 225, plus 220, plus 210. So pretty across the board. Let's see, which brings us... Okay, so this brings us, chronologically speaking, Francis Ngannou's first championship defense versus Gane. And the odds were actually fairly close, but Gane was, at least in some of the betting lines, as much as a minus 115 favorite to Ngannou plus 105. And again, I still think that Gane won that fight. So, bringing us to Why does it? Oh, there we go. That's right. Okay. My small correction from before, because I didn't, not even a correction. I just want to add an asterisk. So when we were discussing Jan Blachowicz versus Yuri Prochazka, that fight, obviously the odds came out, but that particular fight didn't happen because, as we know, Blachowicz ended up fighting Glover Teixeira, and then Glover ended up fighting Yuri, which Yuri was the favorite in that, even though Glover was the champion. Odds anywhere between a -185 to a -200 favorite for Yuri, whereas Glover Teixeira was anywhere between a +160 to a +170 underdog. Keeping chronologically. Okay, so at this time, new women's flyweight champion, flyweight. Oh goodness, when it comes to the female division, yes, flyweight. Carla Esparza had just defeated Namajunas, and Wei Li got a chance to another crack at the belt, this time against Esparza, and it was a pretty big favorite for being. She was the former champ, so nobody was all that surprised. She was a -130 to a -185 favorite. And Esparza was anywhere between a +265 to a +285 underdog. And so immediately jumps to Brandon Moreno and Davidson Figueiredo, the third fight, which I don't have any references to this one for the first and second ones because I'm pretty sure the favorites were across the board, obviously. Second fight did not happen anywhere as quickly as they thought. It was, the first fight was very competitive. The second fight, Brandon Moreno I know it was the first round, but he won in just a minute or two with that rear naked choke. So obviously, with him being the champion, it's not crazy that Figueiredo would have come in as the favorite at least a few of the betting odds. Still pretty close. Figueiredo was a -120, give or take a -120 favorite. Champion Moreno was a +100 underdog. And then, okay, so we actually have the fourth. We actually have the fourth fight as well, because the third fight was won. Okay, so I'm gonna skip chronological because I'm just gonna go right to the fourth fight, seeing it's right here. We're dealing with the same fighters, so obviously the third fight, a bit controversial. At the time, it didn't seem all that controversial, but then in the aftermath, people were saying that no, the decision should not have gone to Figueiredo. It should have gone to Moreno. I scored it for Moreno, so I was a little surprised when he lost the decision. So with that being said, there were a few betting lines in the fourth fight where Moreno was actually the favorite to win, anywhere between a -110 to a -150 favorite, where Figueiredo was anywhere between a -125 to a +100 underdog, depending on the overlap there. Next chronologically brings us to Leon Edwards in the rematch between Usman, and which makes sense because the first fight was considered a Hail Mary win. He landed a nice head kick. So obviously he was considered the underdog in their rematch, but obviously it didn't turn out that way. Credit to Edwards, he kept his belt. However, Usman was anywhere between a -325 to a -375 favorite, while Edwards was anywhere from a +275 to a +290 underdog. We already talked about the fourth fight between Figueiredo and Moreno. Okay, just a few more left, guys. Few more here at the very end. And one of these, I don't even have the listed betting odds. We'll see if we can find them, but if not, no sweat, because it was actually pretty... It was pretty public information. I mean, many people were talking about it. So, and now we're getting to the really recent ones. So this one, a little unknown because by the time the fight happened between these two fighters, the champion was pretty much in all cases he was the favorite, and not even a last minute switch. Pretty much, I think it was like a month out, and furthermore. But when the betting odds opened, the first opening odds between Leon Edwards after defeating Usman for the second time, when he was fighting Kobe Covington. Covington actually opened up as the favorite, minus 115 favorite, whereas Edwards, again, betting odds were close, but Leon Edwards was about a minus 105 underdog. But again, they're both in minus betting odds, so it was extremely close. And going back to Edwards, because there were multiple betting lines between different potential opponents, when he was going to fight, well, again, nothing was set in stone, but it was suggested that he might fight Chimaev. And I don't actually have those betting lines. Give me just a sec. Let me see if we can find some. Let's see if we can do this in real time here. Leon Edwards versus Khamzat Chimaev. Betting odds. Betting odds, betting lines, something. Give me something. Oof, okay. So one of the... are they going to give me more than one? Okay, well, the main one I'm seeing is Khamzat Chimaev was a minus 300 favorite, and champion Leon Edwards was a plus 250 underdog. That's pretty significant. All right, let's wipe that for the next one. I don't think we need to research any other betting lines here, because nope, 3 more. All right, so, and this is actually great because we just had the final trilogy between these two, but in the rematch between now champion Shevchenko, then challenger, and former champion Alexis Grasso, in their rematch, after Grasso became champ, she was the champion underdog. Shevchenko came in as a minus 250 favorite, where Grasso was about a plus 200 underdog. And we now, last couple ones coming in, going back to Aljamain Sterling, his next title defense was against Henry Cejudo, who, again, betting lines were kind of back and forth. Many of the betting lines kind of switching depending on the opponents, and there were several betting lines, but mainly the ones that had Cejudo as a slight favorite. Again, both in minus betting odds. It was ever so slightly. We have minus 115 for Cejudo and minus 105 for Sterling's. And I've seen some betting odds that I think were the exact same, but just reversed. So it was ever so slightly one way or the other. Furthermore, I actually thought, I'll go back and watch it, but in real time, I thought Cejudo won that fight too. So, Sterling getting it by disqualification, then not beating Jan, again, another controversial fight, and then the Cejudo fight, which some people find to be less controversial than his victory over Jan, which I'll yield to that point. I won't argue that too much. And the last one I have, obviously, we're going to discuss Merab and Nurmagomedov once more, but he was a favorite not the night of the fight, but he opened up as a favorite against Sean O'Malley as the champ. Sean O'Malley, the champ, was about a 155 underdog, where Merab came in with the opening lines about a minus 180 favorite. So kind of interesting that the odds are now flipping against him in his first title defense, whether he fights Nurmagomedov or not. But Usmar is actually, what are the betting odds? Let me see if I can specifically find those betting odds. Because I see all the titles that say he opens as a favorite over Merab, but okay, so Merab is a plus 170 underdog, and Nurmagomedov is a minus 200 favorite. And again, I'm pretty sure those betting odds are going to change. Very similar to like Conor McGregor opening up as nearly a 2-1 favorite, and then by the night of the fight, every single betting line had Aldo back as the favorite. These betting lines are definitely gonna switch back and forth as we get closer to the fight. We assume at this point is going to happen. Throat's getting a little dry there. But yeah, so yes, and definitely with the Stipe Miocic and John Jones fight coming up, I definitely wanted to bring up the betting odds, because that they had that betting line on there where the video pretty much ended right where, hey, we don't know if this fight is going to happen, but here are the betting odds. And I mean, what, it took 4 years in the making now for that to finally that fight to finally come out. So we'll know soon enough. And I've seen some comments that were pretty funny where they were saying, oh man, if Stipe can just win this fight, I'll die a happy man. So I don't want to be too cynical against John Jones, but I mean, I agree with you, man. I certainly agree with the sentiment. I'm with you. And I think that's it. I'm looking at the that's the last one that I have. I'm going to add that one to the top of the list, and I'm just going to keep adding any others that come. They've been coming a little slower, obviously, because I started this with so much history to go back to and do another video. But instead of doing all the editing and everything, I just wanted to go ahead, bring it live. It worked with the whole newly crowned champion opening up as an underdog, the whole story, the upcoming Jones fight that it was mentioning. So it was the right time to bring the whole video, bring it up, watch it. I hadn't seen it in years. Bring it up, watch it live, and I know a lot of you haven't seen it as well. So hopefully this was something to enjoy. I know there's a few other topics that I wanted to bring up, but I think we'll do them in another live stream. I might even put them in another video if I stop being so lazy and actually get back to doing some editing work, where, you know, I can actually write a script and plan a video and do some editing like I used to, as you saw. But we'll see here. Actually, here, I think I have one more thing to bring up. Give me just a sec.
You will never get to me. What can't be done, I'll do myself, so I can slip away. Watch your eyes, watch your fall. Watch you losing control. I'm seeing red. Watch your eyes, watch your fall. Now I'm about to break. Watch your eyes, watch your fall. Watch you losing control. Words on my head. Watch your eyes, watch your fall. Now I'm about to break.
Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this?
Face the pain, ripping me into pieces.
Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this?
Face the pain.
And thank you to all the viewers. I know we got some people popping in, popping out, and whatnot. But thank you so much. That's thank you for stopping in and watching a bit. I may just take the time if anybody wants to shoot their thoughts on an upcoming fight, anything like that. But if not, I didn't have any planned additional topics to talk about in this particular live stream, unless you wanted to talk about John Wick, or, you know, because I do. And if you didn't see my previous live stream and a couple other videos where I kind of gave a little bit of a teaser that, yeah, no, we're gonna start doing a little more in that direction, where I do need to make more super fights, but I'm also gonna open it where it's not just, you know, fighters and retired fighters or prime versus prime. I'm gonna open up to, you know, fictional characters like John Wick, like some of the other ones that are kind of fit that vibe. So let me know for any super fights that you want to see, whether they're strictly between fighter versus fighter, or some of the more along the ones like here, and what we talked about previously, where we take a character like John Wick and, you know, the lore, everything, the continuity, everything that's part of his canon, you know, strip the weapons, the guns, the suits, any other gear, and just throw him in the cage, throw him in the UFC cage and see how he does. I don't have his stats offhand, but he's about 185, 190, 6'6", 6'1". So chances are he'd probably fight in middleweight. Now, I originally, when I was planning this whole thing and I created the image you're now looking at, I wanted to see if somebody is like a live action star like him that almost had like unhuman feats. When you see those videos that break down his actual feats, and they're pretty extraordinary. Like if someone like him that may or may not be even possible to be real, could he defeat someone like John Jones against his stacks and his length and his takedowns and things like that? Again, still up in the air, but just off the top of my head, just shooting, like if he was to fight middleweight, would it be a good fight against DDP? Whitaker? Izzy? Because I know some people, not publicly, but it said, no, John Wick can't fight in middleweight. He would get destroyed by someone like Israel Adesanya. Well, now that we've had some time and we see someone like DDP, the way he beat him and Sean Strickland beat him, doesn't seem all that crazy now, does it? So another details. I do want your feedback on that. So did I miss? I don't really think I missed any underdogs. Any UFC champion underdogs. If I did, leave a comment. Let me know. I'll definitely add it in the revision of the video that I'm going to be doing. But definitely want to see your feedback on the upcoming John Wick fight that I'm going to implement in an MMA crossover, and kind of what direction you would like to go, because I don't have to do just one fight. I got a few other ideas that I want to do out there. So let me know. Absolutely. Thank you. You guys are the best. And that also goes for any suggestions or video ideas you have for fighter celebrity lookalikes, top 10 lists that I obviously haven't done too many of those. I'm still going to be continuing the Bad Bonus Awards. If you haven't seen before, I'm actually going to drop a link of that video in the description where we went over part 1, Bad Bonus Awards in the past. And we're going to continue that trend. So definitely check that out. Let me know any other topics you'd think, hey, maybe I haven't done or haven't even suggested I might do. But you might have a great idea out there that I'd like to hear. And I definitely want to start doing something like that, especially if it's a video that you guys want to see. So thank you again to all my fight freaks. I appreciate it. Remix is signing out. We're going to do another live stream recently, probably in the near future. But recently, I've been doing some editing, and I gotta finish some half-finished videos before too much time gets away. So thank you again, guys. Have a good night. Take care.
Starting soon. Get ready, don't be shy. MMA chatter in the room. Got plenty to supply. Grab your drink and chair. We're about to dive in deep. Stories, fights we're gonna share. Come on, don't fall asleep. Won't be much longer. MMA all day. We'll get stronger in every single way. Talking fights and glory. Come join the fun tonight. It's an MMA story under the streaming light.